Welcome back to the Stack Shack Sports Show. A little late on this because of the Christmas holidays, but it's our weekend review of the NFL where we go through every single NFL games. I give quick fire, rapid thoughts, and then pause on some of the games that I found were more interesting. So we always start with Thursday night. We had the Saints and the Rams. The Rams are just finding ways to win. They're kind of peaking at the right time. Pretty impressed with them. I really thought the Saints were going to be better this year with Derek Carr. I thought they had all the pieces in place, and it just has not worked out for them. They're 7-8. Looks like the Bucks are the best team in their division. They're probably not going to make the playoffs. So, disappointing year for the Saints. Obviously, a few weeks left, but overall, kind of disappointing. And I don't know where they go from here. On paper, I feel like their team is good. It just isn't quite performing the way I expected. Rams, though, Kyron Williams continues to be a walking 100 yards, and they've got weapons now, and Matthew Stafford is healthy. We said at the beginning of the year, this was my bet of the year, or one of them. I went 50-50 on him because my Cowboys bet isn't looking great, although I don't think I technically have lost it yet, so there's still hope for me. But the Rams bet, what were they at Vegas, like 6 wins? And I said, we're crazy. As long as Matthew Stafford stays healthy, they're going to win more than that, and they're proving me right. So, interesting team in the Rams. I don't think they have what it takes to make a big playoff run, but they might surprise you. Moving on here, a bit of a playoff battle here. Big game with implications. The Bengals just can't beat anybody in their division. I think they're 0-6 so far this season against their division. That's just not going to get it done. Obviously, they lost Joe Burrow. Jake Browning throws for over 300 yards, but 3 picks. Pretty rough. The Steelers came out in this game fired up. There's been rumors that Tomlin getting let go, and I never liked those rumors. I thought it was stupid to let Tomlin go. I think he's a great coach. But there were some people talking about he's defensive minded. He's been with the Steelers for a very long time. Is it time to maybe get a new voice in the room? They're still winning games. They're probably going to be a playoff team this year if they continue to win. It's going to be close. But I don't think you can, fire Tomlin when he's looking this good with this team. Obviously, he doesn't have Kenny Pickett. Now, I don't think Kenny Pickett is great. But maybe they're a quarterback away. Pickens just went absolutely Super Saiyan. The Bengals just have too many injury problems, right? They got no quarterback. They've had some injuries on the lines. They've had injuries in the receivers. Chase has missed games. It's just not the Bengals' years. So, unfortunate for them. There was a moment there, it felt like maybe they could get into the playoffs as they kind of went on a tear with Jake Browning coming back in. But they now don't have any sort of tiebreaker hope against anybody in their division, and probably going to be very difficult for them to make the playoffs at this point. Moving on to a team that is surging towards the playoffs right now. Still needs a little bit of help because I don't believe they completely control their destiny, but the Bills get another win over the Chargers. Chargers played okay. We could call this the interim coach buff. It seems to happen, and there's a few interim coaches on the list here. When you get an interim coach, typically the first or second games coming out of that, the team plays much better. It's just like a psychological thing, I think. They feel like, okay, finally we got rid of the old coach. We're free, we're fresh, we're feeling good. It revitalizes the entire organization when you get rid of a coach like that was seemingly stifling everything. So they came out and played well, I would say. I mean, jumped out to a bit of a lead there in the first quarter. Buffalo comes back. Buffalo is a scary team. Josh Allen throwing 21 times, running the ball. They're scary. I would be worried about the Buffalo Bills. They're a team that is surging. They're a team that has figured out some of their identity, have figured out how to run the ball all of a sudden after firing their offensive coordinator. They're a scary team. They're a team to watch out for. Should they get into the playoffs, they might make some upsets and make some noise. Moving on to the Jets, they get a sloppy win over the Commanders. Huge day for Breece Hall. RIP anybody playing him in fantasy this week in their championships. With Trevor Siemian threw it almost 50 times. Like, holy smokes. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Washington. When they traded like their entire defensive line, and they had a good defensive line, at that point, I thought they were potentially gonna make some progress or be battling in their division a little bit. I thought they were better. But then they kind of cleaned house, and at that moment, it seems like they may have moved on. This year, they just decided, you know what? Get rid of these players. Let's get some picks. Let's see what we can do. Sam Howell has not been terrible, but now he's benched for Brissett. It's very weird. I don't know what's going on in Washington. New York, Saul is trying to prove that he should still be the coach. 6-9 with what they've had going on. That might not be terrible. I wasn't projecting too great of a season, even with Aaron, because of how bad their offensive line was. So, I guess, 6-9 isn't that bad. I think Salah deserves another shot, at least another year, and we'll see how it goes. But I don't know what's going on in Washington. I don't know what their strategy is. I don't know what their plan is for the future. They're going to need to figure that out. I would have kept playing Sam Howell. Now, maybe there's some sort of injury issues and things like that as well, kind of piling up at this point. I don't know why you would shut him down. Doesn't make sense to me. He's a young quarterback. Get him more reps. Detroit, back to some winning ways here. Beating Minnesota. Huge win for them. Clinching divisions. Doing things that have never happened before. Well, not never, but haven't happened in a long time for Detroit. Feels like it never happens. They're good. They are good. This was kind of a big win, I think, for Detroit because it was on the road, and they're a team that definitely plays completely different at home. Much better team at home. Mullins threw 4 picks. The Vikings are not very good. They aren't. That last pick, too, was pretty bad. So, Lions get a win. Good for them. Good for them. They're a dangerous team if you have to play them in Detroit. Cleveland. Wow. The Joe Flacco, Amari Cooper connection here. What? Wild. Without CJ Stroud, the Texans are not very good. The Browns with Joe Flacco seem dangerous. They do. They scare me. Myles Garrett is terrifying on the defensive line. And Joe Flacco's out here looking like a college. This might be the best he's looked in a long time. Now, he did throw the 2 picks early. That's not great. But Amari Cooper, Joe Flacco. Ford had almost no yards. But the Browns can run the ball sometimes. Pretty impressive. Browns look really good. If the Ravens weren't in this division, the Browns would be easily winning this division and easily the best team in the division. I think the Browns might be one of the best teams in any division. I really think they may be the forgotten team, right? Deshaun Watson goes out, everybody's like, oh, well, season's over. And now look at them, 10-5, Joe Flacco throwing for 368 yards, beating the Texans. Now the Texans don't have CJ Stroud. That's a significant difference. But watch out for the Cleveland Browns. Okay, the Packers defense is terrible. Almost let Carolina come back into this one. I don't know what to do with Green Bay. I really don't. I can't figure him out. Bryce Young, I was happy to see him have a good day. right? They didn't win, but at least he put up some numbers. He did look good in moments. I feel for the guy. He has not had a very good season so far. He's been running around a lot. It's just been a bad situation. He doesn't really have anybody to throw to. Carolina's a mess. They need a bunch of picks. Can they get enough picks? Load up on offense, load up on defense. Give Bryce Young what he needs. Maybe we can have a good Carolina team sometime in the future, but it's going to take a minute. Green Bay, they seem to really like Jordan Love. I anticipate Jordan Love coming back. That secondary is bad. That secondary is bad. So they get the win, but secondary is bad. Seahawks get another close win against the Titans. Tannehill did not look good at all. This is a classic Seahawks win, 20-17. Yeah, had to come back in the fourth quarter a bit, battle it out there. So good for them. Another team that maybe at home you'd be afraid of them, but they probably won't get home playoff games. So not real worried about the Seahawks moving forward. They're a team that can beat you like this, 20-17, but they don't have a lot of options on how to win a game. I don't know what happened to the Colts here. The Falcons, the Colts, wild. Falcons are definitely moving off of Desmond Ridder, I would say, at this point. He just has not looked great. Taylor Heineke comes in here. Minshew didn't look awesome in this game. Falcons are 100% a potential landing destination for some of these quarterbacks like Fields, or we'll talk in a moment about the whole Russell Wilson situation. But the Falcons are an interesting destination for some of those quarterbacks because they're not bad enough to get a good draft pick, so they're probably going to look for somebody in free agency. The Colts, I think, want to stick with Anthony Richardson. He showed some things in the beginning. They picked him up as a kind of boom-bust prospect, somebody who had a lot of upside. They want to give it a shot. Look to them, maybe, potentially to bring in some veteran guy this offseason just to add some stability and fill in when Anthony Richardson potentially gets hurt, because he is a bit of a runner over a passer, and we all know, ask Lamar Jackson, ask Jalen Hurts, ask Carson Wentz, ask Kyler Murray. When you run around a lot, you have a tendency to get hurt more. That's just how it goes. Jacksonville. What happened to Jacksonville this year? Trevor Lawrence looks terrible. I mean, that's just terrible. Baker Mayfield, though, is silently having an awesome season. Like, I think I picked the Bucs. No, I didn't pick the Bucs to finish last because Carolina's there. But I did not think the Bucs were going to be good this year. And here he is, Baker Mayfield, leading a playoff team. I think they're going to win the division. The Bucs are not that good. It's not like he's sitting here on Miami and he's got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and the greatest offensive mind. This is not San Francisco. He's got a coach that's not even that good. Like, historically, his record's not great. And he has Mike Evans. Beyond that, he really doesn't have anything. And they're 8-7, going to be a playoff team. Bravo, Baker. I did not expect that. I've always been a bit of a Baker fan. I liked the guy. I thought he was going to be better than he was in Cleveland. But then again, Cleveland was a dumpster fire when he was there, right? It's not the Cleveland they have now. Cleveland now is much improved as far as an organization is concerned, as far as coaching is concerned. I mean, Baker had, 5 different coaches his first 4 years? Something like that. So, you got to give him credit. He got the Browns to the playoffs. That was impressive. And now he's getting the Bucs to the playoffs. Got to give him a lot of credit for that. All right. Cowboys, Dolphins. This was a big matchup. This was one of my most anticipated games of the week. Something I was really interested in seeing how it would play out. Dolphins get the win. At home. Nothing particularly bad from either quarterback. Both were pretty good. Top receivers were pretty good. These are two evenly matched teams. Now, it was big for the Dolphins to get a win against a team with a winning record. That was good. Dolphins finally got one of those. The Cowboys, they just can't seem to get a win on the road against good teams. They just don't quite seem to have it. So, there you go. Miami and Dallas. This season in the NFL, I think, is one of the most interesting to me in that there is always this group of teams at the top that all have, 10, 11 wins, 12 wins, etc. Double-digit wins. And yet, I don't particularly like Dallas or Miami as, potential Super Bowl teams. I just don't think either of them quite have it. Miami, again, this is their first win over a team with a winning record, right? Dallas on the road just seems to collapse over and over, right? So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know what to I don't know what to pick here as far as do I think these teams are in the Super Bowl? I don't think they are. Moving on to teams that are definitely not in the Super Bowl, the Bears and the Cardinals. Good for Justin Fields to get some wins here. His numbers aren't great. They still aren't good. Cardinals are a mess. I mean, Kyler Murray's back and they're losing to the Bears. But the Bears are having this surge. Look at them, 6-9. If you would have told me the Bears were going to be 6-9 at this point in the season, 4 or 5 weeks ago, I would have said no way. But here they are. Chicago is probably moving off of Fields, though, at the end of the year. Let's be real. They probably are. What Arizona does, I don't know. I mean, they owe Kyler a bunch of money. So they're going to keep paying Kyler, and I guess you try and build around him. Obviously, he's coming into a situation where he came in halfway through the year. They were already bottom of the barrel as far as their record was concerned. So can't get too worked up about that. Can't blame the record all on Kyler. So I think they reset. They go for next season and see what Kyler can do. If Kyler has a bad year next year, if they can't get into the winning column, can't be fighting for the playoffs next season, then they need to start making a change. But this year was kind of a wash from the beginning. Bears, moving on from Justin Fields probably in the offseason. At least that's what all the reports are. Does he go to the Falcons? Does he go somewhere else? We'll see. Falcons seems to be the team that everybody's talking about. He would be pretty exciting there, I think. And maybe that can be the fresh start that Justin Fields needs to show off some of his talent. He's a talented player. He makes some big plays, but he just doesn't take the easy ones and doesn't make enough good plays. Moving on here, Patriots beating the Broncos. Well, first of all, if you're a Patriots fan, I'm not even sure you wanted to win this game because you're trying to pick up a quarterback in this year's draft. So, oops. But, yeah, good on you for getting Russell Wilson benched for the rest of the year. In reality, Russell Wilson is now, if you haven't heard the news, being benched for the rest of the season, most likely going to be cut when they have the opportunity to do so. It is because of his contract. Essentially, how it works is he's a big cap hit next year, but another large portion of his contract becomes guaranteed and would therefore be a cap hit if he gets hurt and doesn't pass a physical. So, by not playing him, avoiding any opportunities for him to get hurt, for him to not pass the physical exam at the end of the season, will keep the Broncos from having to pay him that extra money. It looks like Sean Payton wants him out. Pretty wild. As far as my take on this, I thought the trade, when it was announced, I thought the Broncos gave up too much for Russell. I thought it was a bad trade. But, to be fair, it's not like the Seahawks created a dynasty off of this trade, right? I thought they were going to go maybe pick up a quarterback as well, or use some of those pieces to go pick up a quarterback, and then the Seahawks could have been really scary. But they didn't. So, you could say that Broncos lost this trade. Yeah, maybe. Sure. But it's not terrible. It's more that the Broncos lost than the Seahawks won, in my opinion. Paying Russell Wilson that kind of money was problematic. The hiring of Nathaniel Hackett was bad. Now they get Sean Payton. And I think they've just kind of made a decision in the building. You know what? We're going to go forward with Sean Payton. Let him be the coach of this team. Get him a quarterback and get him players for his system, for his offense, for what he's looking for. And we're going to move off of Russell Wilson. We're cutting ties. We're moving on. Starting fresh. Payton as the focal point. Whereas Russell was, right? So it was trade, make Russell the focal point of the team. Terrible year with Nathaniel Hackett as a first-time head coach. Immediately boot him, bring in Payton to hopefully try and fix Russell Wilson. Fixed him to the tune of 7-8, so that's good. They are better this year. Especially down the stretch, they've improved. But tensions have been flaring. We saw the flare up on the sidelines. There you go. Russell Wilson benched for the rest of the year. Where does he end up? Is a very interesting question because he is expensive. Unlike Justin Fields, who I think has maybe even a bigger market because he's so inexpensive. Russell's not cheap. So it makes it a little harder to find a good place for him to land. Again, Atlanta keeps coming up as well. Maybe that's an option. We'll have to see. The Raiders. Look at the Raiders go. Beating Kansas City in Kansas City. This new coach, Aiden O'Connell throws for 62 yards. I don't think he completed a pass outside of the first quarter. They just ran the ball. Brutal. The Chiefs have serious problems. They cannot find receivers to be productive. They just can't find them. And Mahomes is getting testy. We saw the flare-up over the penalty. We've seen a lot of yelling on the sidelines. He's getting frustrated. And rightly so. His receivers can't catch. They can't get open. They make dumb penalty mistakes. It's tough to win when that's going on. And so good on the Raiders. Love the interim head coach. We might say this is an interim buff, but it's now been going on for a couple of weeks here. I say give him the job. I think a couple years ago, before the hiring of Josh McDaniels, remember they had an interim head coach? I can't remember his name. But after the whole Gruden situation and the Ruggs situation, that was a tumultuous season. and he kind of navigated them, and they played well at the end of the year. I think they even made the playoffs. They lost to the Bengals, was it that year? I can't remember how that progressed, but had a decent year towards the end. I thought they should have given it to that interim coach. And they, I think, made a mistake in hiring Josh McDaniels. It never worked in Las Vegas. They had this momentum as a franchise, the Raiders did. And then they hired McDaniels, and it just did not go well. So I say you've got that momentum again. Don't make the same mistake twice. Hire, I know he's young. I know he's fresh. But the players like him. The fans like him. You have this momentum, this good feeling in the building. I think the Raiders have been missing that for a long time. Go for it. Stick to it. Be the Raiders. Own up to what you are. Play the way the Raiders play. It just seems like a good fit. It just seems like, once again, they have the momentum. They have a good vibe in the building. I wouldn't lose that by bringing in some other head coach. And I don't know who you'd get anyways. So I say go with the interim guy. And if it doesn't work after the first year, sure, you can move on. But I say give him a shot. I think it could be really fun to see. Moving on to our Monday night, our Christmas Day games. The Eagles get a win over the Giants. It just doesn't look pretty. Everything looks hard for the Eagles to me. And I have concerns when they reach the playoffs. You know, okay, the Giants, eventually you pull away, you win. All right, good. But I don't know if you're doing that against the Cowboys, against the Niners. You can't. It just looks hard. They don't seem to have that killer level that they could get to like they did last season when they made it to the Super Bowl. This team just seems, I don't know, it almost seems like they're tired. Like it just doesn't quite have the same juice. Not around the defense, not around the offense, at any level of the organization. It just seems like they don't have the same juice. They don't have the same feeling of execution. They don't seem as confident. They feel like they're almost kind of, I mean, you look at the after game press conferences and it's, man, we got to win, but we didn't really play that well. We didn't execute the way we needed to. It almost feels like they know they're not as good as their record says. And they're telling us that. And I'm starting to think, you know what, I should start listening to them and believing them. I think they're in trouble. They might be one of those first round exits. We'll have to see. And then the big one on Christmas Day. This is the one we were all excited about. I know I was waiting like a little kid waiting for Christmas morning presents. Well, my present was Ravens 49ers. So excited for this game. I think it delivered, but maybe in a way that I wasn't expecting. I thought it was going to be a bit closer. But once again, Lamar Jackson owns the NFC. He does. He's only lost one time to the NFC. We look at his numbers, pretty darn good. Brock Purdy, oh boy, 4 interceptions. If you give Brock Purdy the MVP this season, after what we've seen, again, 3 of the losses before last night, as soon as Debo goes out, they lost all their games. He comes back, they go back to winning all of their games. I think going into this game, when Brock Purdy, Debo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, and I believe Kittle is on that list as well, when those 4 play, the San Francisco 49ers had never lost. Ever. They'd never lost. Until the Ravens showed up. But we're seeing it, okay? Purdy, without, if he's missing one of his weapons, He loses. That was the 3 losses in the middle of the season. Then, show up. This Ravens defense is looking like the Ravens defenses of old. I mean, we've got a new Ed Reed and Ray Lewis with Roquan and Kyle Hamilton. It's just a modern version of it, okay? This is a scary Baltimore team. And I've been on this for a little bit now. I was saying San Francisco and Baltimore, those are the only 2 teams that are really separating. We did a video about this last week. Baltimore is scary. Now, it's hard to beat a team twice. I do think this is probably your Super Bowl matchup. I do think it is. And it is difficult to beat a team twice. You know Shanahan's going to be looking over all that film, scheming up a good offense. But Shanahan also now has a track record. He's 0-37 when trailing by 8 or more in the fourth quarter at any point. In the years that span is, which he's been with San Francisco for what, 6 years or something like that? Every other team has a win when trailing by 8 or more in the fourth quarter. Every other team, except for San Francisco. So now there's starting to be a trend here. San Francisco can't come back. And you think with those weapons, I feel like they would be primed and ready for big plays and big comebacks, right? They score a lot of points. They got a great offensive play caller. There's starting to be a trend here. When things don't go according to plan, they seem to struggle. Part of that might be the quarterback, Purdy. Is he? Cam Newton got a lot of crap for saying it. The playmaker versus the game manager. And you can be a game manager and win Super Bowls. You can be a playmaker and win Super Bowls. What you really need is a little bit of both. You need some playmaker. You need some Patrick Mahomes, some Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Matthew Stafford. You need a little bit of playmaker in you. But you also got to avoid some mistakes. Avoid interceptions, avoid problems, be a bit of a game manager, play within the system, distribute the ball to your teammates, especially when you have teammates like the Niners do. Oh my gosh, that offense is loaded. But if you look at this game, was that a preview of the Super Bowl? I think it was. I think the Ravens would get them again because, yeah, maybe Purdy doesn't throw for 4 picks next time. But I don't think they're stopping Lamar. I don't think they're stopping this offense for the Ravens. I mean, this San Francisco defense has been lauded as one of the best, right? I mean, it was a great linebacker matchup. We probably had the 2 best linebacking cores playing each other here. Ravens, Niners. One linebacking core we saw all over the field. Ravens. Messed with Purdy, caused problems. The other linebacking core, Warner felt like he disappeared, was neutralized by Lamar, because they're scared to rush him, and they're just chasing him all over the place, so he has a million hours back there to throw, because the pass rush is just trying to contain him, which makes it impossible for your DBs to cover that long. And then when you did rush, and you did start to get to him, he's going to slip out and make a big play with his legs and his arm again. It's ridiculous. He's absolutely incredibly talented. It's amazing. I'm so excited that he is healthy right now at the end of the season, because we really haven't seen a healthy Lamar Jackson in many years. So, exciting for the Ravens. Good for the Ravens. I think this was our Super Bowl preview. Will it be different next time around? Let me know in the comments down below. Let me know what you thought about this week. What do you think of the Russell Wilson thing? That was a big breaking news this week. If you haven't, please subscribe, leave a like, share this with a friend so we can keep making great content like this, and we'll see you next time.